Robin Williams, a man forged in loneliness and shaped by laughter, stood at the pinnacle of global fame. Yet behind the manic energy and boundless joy he brought to millions lay a soul tormented by demons no spotlight could ever illuminate. He was the alien who landed in our living rooms, the teacher who made us believe in poetry, the therapist who helped a troubled genius find himself, the genie who granted our wishes for escape into worlds of wonder. His films earned billions. His comedy changed generations. His Oscar gleamed on the mantelpiece of achievement. But on August 11, 2014, at his home in Paradise Cay, California, Robin Williams died by suicide at age 63. His brilliant mind ravaged by a disease no one had diagnosed. His final months, a descent into terror that would have broken anyone. Before we begin, if Robin Williams' laughter ever gave you solace in your darkest hour, leave a like as tribute to a man who gave everything he had. Even as his own world crumbled into shadows, he could not escape. Behind the thunder of global fame lies a cruel truth that few understood until it was too late. In October 2013, Robin Williams began experiencing symptoms that would ultimately destroy him. A sudden and sustained spike in fear and anxiety, unlike anything his wife Susan Schneider had ever witnessed. He could not sleep. His sense of smell deteriorated. Constipation plagued him, and soon came tremors in his hands, confusion, memory loss, paranoia, delusions. During the filming of Night at the Museum, 3 in spring 2014, Robin, who had memorized hundreds of lines without error for Broadway just 3 years prior, could not remember even one line. He had panic attacks, moments of clarity followed by complete disorientation. Susan described watching her brilliant husband being lucid with clear reasoning. 1 minute, then 5 minutes later, blank, lost in confusion. They consulted doctors, neurologists, psychiatrists, specialists of every kind. Tests came back negative, except for extremely high cortisol levels. In May 2014, doctors diagnosed him with Parkinson's disease, but it was a misdiagnosis, a cruel misdirection. What he actually had, what was destroying his brain region by region, was Lewy Body Dementia, one of the most severe cases doctors would ever see. The disease caused abnormal deposits of protein throughout his brain, triggering hallucinations, extreme anxiety, paranoia, and cognitive decline. Robin was aware something was catastrophically wrong. He kept saying to Susan, "I just want to reboot my brain." He experienced himself disintegrating his talents, slipping away his mind, betraying him. The terrorist inside his brain, as Susan would later describe it, was relentless and merciless. By August 2014, Robin Williams was exhausted. Exhausted from the terror. Exhausted from fighting a battle he did not understand. Exhausted from the unbearable reality of losing himself piece by piece. But fate had other plans. How did a man who brought such joy to the world find himself in such darkness? The seeds of tragedy were planted long before the final act. Born on July 21, 1951 in Chicago, Illinois, Robin McLaurin Williams entered a world of privilege that could not shelter him from wounds that would define his existence. His father was a Ford Motor Company executive whose work consumed him. His mother, a former model who taught young Robin that to earn affection he had to be funny, not simply himself. The family moved to Detroit suburbs, into a sprawling house that felt more like a museum than a home. At Detroit Country Day School, 6th grade became his personal hell. He was overweight, shy, painfully awkward. Bullies sensed vulnerability like sharks sense blood in water. Day after day, he endured name-calling, physical harassment, the casual cruelty that children inflict. He came home crying, his mother's sarcastic wit, doing little to heal the wounds of rejection. In that isolation, Robin created characters and voices in his head, entire conversations with people who existed only in his imagination. It was survival, but it planted the seed of genius. From neglect, he carved resolve. From rejection, he learned defiance. Years later, after moving to California and finding his voice in high school drama classes, Robin stumbled into comedy not as a career choice, but as a survival strategy. He studied theater, earned a scholarship to Juilliard, where he befriended Christopher Reeve, then left to chase an impossible dream in comedy clubs. $50 a night if he was lucky, sleeping on couches, surviving on adrenaline. His big break came in 1978, when producer Gary Marshall asked him to sit down for an audition. Robin sat on his head on the chair. Marshall hired him immediately for Happy Days, which exploded into Mork and Mindy. Within weeks, Robin Williams became a household name. Success came with a price he never anticipated. By 1980, Robin Williams was no longer the lonely kid creating imaginary friends. He was a star, earning $35,000 per episode, his face plastered on magazine covers. The world saw a young man living the dream, but behind the manic improvisations, Robin was drowning. Fame brought pressure he had never experienced, expectations he did not know how to meet, and access to substances that promised relief from the constant anxiety gnawing at his insides. Cocaine became his companion, alcohol his comfort. Friends later recalled that with drugs he became a monster, inhaling entire grams of cocaine in a single bathroom, visit partying until 5 in the morning, then showing up on set, exhausted but wired, delivering performances fueled by chemicals rather than joy. Director Howard Storm remembered Robin arriving to work, having not slept the entire night, snorting coke to stay high, drinking booze to come down. The cycle was vicious and unrelenting. Power, as Robin Williams discovered, carries a heartbreaking price. Then came March 1982, a night that would alter the trajectory of his life. Robin had been at the Chateau Marmont with fellow comedian John Belushi. They shared cocaine that night. Robin left in the early morning hours. Hours later, John Belushi was found dead, overdosed on a lethal combination of cocaine and heroin. Robin Williams was devastated, shaken to his core by the reality that he had been there, that he had shared in the substances that killed his friend. The grand jury investigation that followed terrified him, but more than fear, it was the birth of his son Zachary in April 1983 that forced him to confront his demons. He quit cocaine and alcohol cold turkey 6 months before Zachary was born, determined to be a father, determined to survive. For 20 years, he stayed sober, channeling his energy into work, into cycling, into rebuilding a life that addiction had nearly stolen from him. When Robin Williams stood on stage, accepting his Oscar for Good, Will Hunting in 1998, the cameras captured triumph, the culmination of decades of work. But they could not capture the storm brewing beneath the surface. His first marriage to Valerie Velarde, whom he met in 1976, ended in divorce in 1988. Valerie later admitted she allowed Robin's infidelity, his countless affairs, because she understood he loved women, absolutely loved women, and she wanted him to have that freedom as long as he came home. But the marriage collapsed when Robin began a relationship with Marcia Garces, the nanny they had hired to care for Zachary. Marcia was pregnant with Robin's child when the divorce was finalized. He married her in April 1989, and they had 2 more children together, Zelda and Cody. For nearly 2 decades, Robin and Marcia built a life, a production company, a partnership that seemed solid. But in March 2008, Marcia filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. The financial toll was staggering. Settlements estimated between $30 and $40 million across both divorces. A hemorrhaging of wealth that forced Robin, even at the height of his fame, to take roles not out of passion, but out of necessity. Behind the cameras, the truth was different. Robin Williams was not the effortlessly funny man audiences saw. He was a man fighting every single day to hold himself together. Then came 2003, the year everything changed again. While filming in Alaska, surrounded by the stark remoteness of frozen wilderness, Robin Williams relapsed. He did not return to cocaine, that demon he had conquered, but alcohol crept back into his life, offering warmth in the cold, offering numbness to the anxiety that never truly left him. By 2006, his family staged an intervention and he checked into the Hazelden Rehabilitation Facility in Oregon. He spoke openly about attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, about the daily battle to stay sober, about the gnawing fear that addiction was always waiting, lurking in the shadows, patient and relentless. Years later, he would confess that addiction was not caused by anything. It just was. It waited. It lay in wait for the time when you thought it was fine, and then the next thing you knew it was not okay. The world saw his success. Mrs. Doubtfire earning over $400 million. Aladdin over $500 million Good Will Hunting, making him an Oscar winner. But behind the accolades and the standing ovations, Robin Williams carried wounds that never healed, demons that never slept, and a loneliness that fame could never fill. By 2014, as his symptoms worsened and doctors scrambled to find answers, Robin Williams found himself in a nightmare with no escape. His friends noticed the change, the light dimming in his eyes, the confusion that replaced his razor-sharp wit. Robin asked his doctors again and again, "Am I schizophrenic? Do I have Alzheimer's?" The questions haunted him, because deep down he knew his mind was betraying him. The autopsy after his death revealed what no one knew during his life, that Lewy Body Dementia had ravaged his brain, that nearly every region had been under attack. The pathology among the worst medical professionals had ever encountered. 4 doctors who reviewed his case stated it was one of the most severe presentations they had ever seen. His suicide was not simply a result of depression, but the tragic end to a neurological disease that robbed him of his essence. The world reacted with shock and grief when news broke that August morning. Tributes poured in from presidents and fellow actors, from fans who felt they had lost a friend. President Barack Obama called Robin an airman, a doctor, a genie, a nanny, a president, a professor, a bangarang, Peter Pan. "He arrived in our lives as an alien," Obama said, "but he ended up touching every element of the human spirit." His death sparked conversations about depression, addiction, mental health, and the silent suffering that can exist behind even the brightest smiles. At the time of his death, Robin Williams' net worth was approximately $50 million, down from a peak of $130 million for the difference consumed by divorce settlements and supporting his family. His estate included a wise clause restricting commercial use of his image and voice for 25 years after his death. He left behind 3 children, Zachary, Zelda, and Cody, each carrying the weight of their father's legacy and the pain of his absence. Robin's philanthropic work through the Windfall Foundation raised millions over the years. His tireless support of troops overseas through USO tours became legendary, performing in Iraq, Afghanistan, and dangerous locations without publicity. His contributions to Comic Relief Co., hosted with Billy Crystal and Whoopi Goldberg, starting in 1986, raised over $80 million for America's homeless. He supported the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation after his dear friend's tragic accident. And when Reeve died in 2004, Robin delivered a eulogy that left not a dry eye in the room. His widow, Susan Schneider Williams, has since become a fierce advocate for Lewy Body Dementia awareness, working to ensure others receive accurate diagnoses. In a powerful essay published in Neurology in 2016, Susan described Robin's final months with heartbreaking clarity, calling Lewy Body Dementia the terrorist inside her husband's brain. Robin Williams' career achievements paint a picture of unprecedented versatility over 4 decades. His films have grossed over $6 billion worldwide when adjusted for inflation. Good Morning Vietnam in 1987 earned over $123 million and his first Oscar nomination. Dead Poets Society in 1989 grossed over $235 million and became a cultural phenomenon. Aladdin in 1992 revolutionized voice acting, earning over $500 million worldwide. Mrs. Doubtfire in 1993 remains one of the most beloved family comedies, earning over $441 million globally. Good Will Hunting in 1997 finally brought him the Oscar, the film grossing over $225 million. He took risks with darker roles in 1 Hour Photo and Insomnia in 2002, proving his range extended far beyond comedy. He redefined what it meant to be a comedian, blending rapid-fire improvisation with deep emotional truth, proving that laughter and tears were partners in the human experience. His improvisational style influenced a generation of comedians. His openness about addiction and depression helped break stigmas and encouraged others to seek help. He spoke candidly about his battles, describing addiction as a disease that lay dormant until you thought you were safe. His honesty gave permission to millions to acknowledge their own struggles. His friendship with Christopher Reeve showed loyalty that transcended fame. Robin quietly paid for Reeve's medical expenses when insurance ran out, never seeking publicity for his generosity. Yet the tragedy of Robin Williams is not simply that he died too soon, but that he lived so much of his life in pain that the joy he gave to others came at such a steep personal cost that the laughter that defined him masked a loneliness that began in childhood and never truly left. The overweight boy, creating imaginary friends in an empty mansion, never fully disappeared. He simply learned to perform for larger and larger audiences, but the fundamental wound remained unhealed. The need for approval that drove him to make his mother laugh evolved into the need to make millions laugh. Yet, that approval could never fill the void. In his final years, he sought answers to questions doctors could not answer, fought battles no one could see, and faced a cruel reality that his brilliant mind, the very instrument of his genius, was being systematically destroyed. The improvisation that had been his gift became impossible when his brain could not access the words, the characters, the connections that had always come so effortlessly. The world lost a treasure when Robin Williams died, but perhaps the greater tragedy is that he never fully knew in his final moments just how deeply he was loved, how profoundly he mattered, how much his life meant to so many. His daughter Zelda spoke movingly after his death about a father who was present, who cared deeply, who taught her to be brave. His sons Zachary and Cody remembered a man who, despite his demons, showed up for them, loved them unconditionally. His friends recalled a generous spirit, who remembered names, asked about families, lifted up those around him, even when struggling himself. His legacy is not just the films or comedy specials or awards, but the reminder that even those who bring us the most joy can carry the heaviest burdens, and that behind every smile there may be a battle we cannot see. His story challenges us to look beyond the surface, to check on those we love, to understand that mental illness and neurological disease do not care about fame or fortune or how much laughter you have given the world. Robin Williams gave us everything: his talent, his energy, his vulnerability, his truth. In return, the least we can do is remember him, not just for how he died, but for how he lived, how he loved, and how he changed the world, with laughter that came from a place of profound pain transformed into profound joy.